You are tuned in to the High at 9 News Hour, where you will hear from cannabis industry experts and professionals from around the country talk about important topics while shining light on global issues and discussing cannabis as it relates to politics, regulation and reform, data and technology, science, research and medicine, family and parenting, art, celebs and entertainment, fitness, sports, mental health and wellness, and plant-based medicines and enthogenics. Together, we are building a stronger community, fighting the stigma and creating change. With your hosts, Jason Beck, Rico Lamitte, and Nichole West, joined by special industry expert correspondents from around the country and daily antics brought to you by cannabis. Coming to you live Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time. Thank you for getting high at 9 with us.
Good morning, everybody. It is my first day running the show today digitally, so please, everybody, bear with me. But today is Tuesday, November 22nd, which is also National Cranberry Relish Day, Go for a Ride Day, Humane Society's anniversary for all of our furry friends out there, Lebanon's Independence Day, as well as National Nathan Day, where we give you absolutely Nathan today. We're also thankful for you tuning in with us every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific and high noon on the East Coast. We have correspondents from around the country and allow for an open forum if you want to participate. Do us a solid and hit that subscribe button and share us on your favorite social media platform. Tell a friend about something that you've learned on the news today. We're live every Monday through Friday on YouTube and Twitch and audio only on Clubhouse. And if you're on Clubhouse, make sure you raise your hand if you've got a comment or a question on the story that we've presented. But please make sure you keep that banter going on the YouTube chat box. It makes our lives worth living. We have a great show for you all today, and we want to make sure that we get some important topics covered from around the globe. But first, let's pay some bills so we can keep this show rolling. At True Classic OG, we live by one motto: stay true. We stay true to our legacy cut of True OG that's always fresh, piney, gassy, and delicious. We represent the spirit, hustle, and diversity of our great city of Angels. And we stay true to the spirit of this plant, doing everything in-house to ensure that you get the highest quality and consistency with every batch. And that's what's made us LA's favorite OG. True Classic OG. Stay true, Los Angeles. Thank you all. And we're going to get started this morning with the one and only Jason Beck. Jason's the member of whatever political party might piss you off, the longest running retailer in the history of regulated cannabis, the highest Republican that I'll invite to my birthday party, as well as somebody who's probably going to piss Gretchen off in the next 6 seconds. So let's run it, Jason. What do you have for us today?
Oh, yeah, Gretchen, you know what time it is. It's time for you to pay on your bet because the Oregon governor, Kate Brown, pardons 45,000 people with marijuana possession convictions. Oregon Governor Kate Brown announced on Monday that she is issuing a pardon for Oregonians who have been convicted of simple possession of marijuana. The pardon is for people convicted of possessing 1 ounce or less of marijuana before 2016 when they were 21 or older. Brown's pardon applies in cases where possession was the only charge and there were no victims. The pardon will remove 47,144 convictions for possession of 1 ounce or less of marijuana and will impact approximately 45,000 people, her office said. The move will also forgive more than $14 million in fines and fees associated with the offenses. In a statement, Brown said, "No one deserves to be forever saddled with the impacts of a conviction for simple possession of marijuana, a crime that is no longer on the books in Oregon. The decision to issue the pardon," Brown said in a statement, "represents an effort to right the wrongs of a flawed, inequitable, and outdated criminal justice system in Oregon when it comes to personal marijuana possession." Brown also said Oregonians should never face housing insecurity, employment barriers, and educational obstacles as a result of doing something that is now completely legal and has been for years. My pardon will remove these hardships. And while Oregonians use marijuana at similar rates, Black and Latinos people have been harassed, prosecuted, and convicted at disproportionate rates. According to the governor's office, the pardon applies only to state-level convictions because the statewide judicial database used by the Oregon Judicial Department doesn't have access to locally operated city and county municipal or justice court records. In addition, President Joseph Biden's recent pardon of simple possession of marijuana convictions doesn't overlap with any of the convictions pardoned by Brown because Biden pardoned only federal level possession of marijuana convictions. Brown's pardon applies only to state level convictions in Oregon. Brown's pardon also won't result in anyone being freed from incarceration, according to the governor's office, because no one is currently incarcerated in Oregon solely for the possession of 1 ounce or less of marijuana. The announcement of the pardon is the latest example of the governor taking action to communicate the sentences of people convicted of crimes. For example, in 2020, 2021, Brown granted clemency to more than 1,000 people convicted of crimes. 2 Oregon district attorneys and family members of crime victims filed a lawsuit in early 2022 alleging that Brown had violated clemency procedures. In August, the Oregon Court of Appeals ruled that Brown's communications were lawful. At the Oregonian Oregon Live reported that Brown has issued for more communications than previous Oregon governors. While criminal justice reformers have expressed support, Brown's actions have somewhat drawn criticism, including an objection earlier this year from Oregon Senator Ron Wyden, who called Brown's decision to free a man convicted of murder in Douglas County wrong on every level, stating with its callousness towards the crime victim family and extending to all Oregonians, counting on public officials to make decisions with public safety in mind. However, in a statement issued today regarding the announcement from Brown's office, Wyden said he supported the governor's decision to grant pardons in the case of simple marijuana possession convictions. Pardoning simple possession in Oregon is absolutely necessary to repair the damage done by the failed war on drugs, Wyden said in the statement. It is the proper use of the governor's clemency powers, and I hope that every governor and state legislature will follow suit. The American people have consistently shown overwhelming support for expungement and reform of our marijuana laws. It's time for Congress to step up and begin to right these wrongs at the federal level. As we approach the end of Congress, I will continue to push for meaningful cannabis reform and will fight to get as much done as we possibly can. Well, thank you very much, Senator Ron Wyden. You are a true champion for cannabis, and we do appreciate that. But I want to see what Gretchen and the rest of you guys have to say about this. And this is Jason Beck reporting from Pardon Central in Oregon for High at 9 News.
This is just in line with a good old Biden pardon. Doesn't do shit.
Exactly.
Nobody's in jail.
The article even said that. I was
article,
confused. Yeah. Jason, you started all furious and woo, and then you made it to the part where you were like, and this is why I have to pay Gretchen money. That's what I heard. That's definitely what I heard. They said that there's nobody in jail in Oregon for a simple
100%. It doesn't matter. It's a pardon. It's a pardon.
No, but it's not.
We were talking about it is a pardon. It's not. The newspaper calls it a pardon. The governor calls it a pardon.
Bro, fake news.
A senator called it a pardon. It's a governor. It's a pardon.
This is an expungement, Jason.
I'm just saying, it's a pardon.
No, it's not.
It's a pardon.
I know kindergartners with worse possession charges than what she's letting people out for. This is ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's so dumb. Anyway, I applaud her for the bullshit gesture, just like every other Democrat has done for marijuana voters. Bullshit gestures. Good job.
Oh, no, I just call it all virtue signaling.
I think that it's interesting that says that there were no other victims involved in the crimes.
No, they said
for simple.
Yeah, everyone that is expunged from this, there was no victim involved in the crime. So if there was a victim involved in a crime that you had an ounce or less, then you didn't get pardoned.
Got it.
I don't know. The only redeeming quality I see in these pardons is that they're forgiving unpaid fines. So if people don't have to pay up and they're going to get some money back, all right.
But I
But
mean,
And I think
are
it's
corporations
public-
not people too?
But hold on, how are they not? How are they $14 million for simple possession charges? I mean, they got to just be raping people for all of this money coming out of Oregon.
First of all, that's not the word that we use when we talk about people taking advantage ever, because that's not a fair parallel. But with that said, that's not really that much when you start to think about how quickly, you know, the little fines add up. I got a smoking ticket when I was like 16 or 17, just like a smoking underage. And it ended up costing me almost $1,100 with like all the bullshit and like the fees that you had to pay for the classes and all that stuff. So, I mean, it's not that hard to imagine that there's that much.
I think that they use the word pardon for marketing purposes, like to
For
get
Jason
the
Beck.
hype
They used
around,
it. They
right.
used it because they knew I had a bet going on with Gretchen.
Because it's really expungement, like Gretchen said. It's not pardons. Technically, a pardon is. I was hoping that Nichole would have looked it up, but I know she's producing. Pardon is when you get let out of prison, right? And then an expungement is when your record is cleared or sealed. Two different things. Correct. Right.
This
Okay.
is-
Thank you.
They're saying this isn't even a crime anymore there. I mean, this is
Hold on.
bullshit.
First of all, you could smoke crack openly in the streets of Oregon without getting arrested. Okay.
Now,
why there's $14 million in fines?
You want to know why? You want to know why? Because Oregon was the only whites-only state that ever existed on the West Coast, and it was literally one of the easiest ways for them to profile people. It is a racist, fucked up reality of why Oregon has all of those, and it wasn't until 2
So you're
years
saying a
ago.
Democratic-controlled state is racist?
It was the most
First
racist
of
state on
all-
the West Coast
first
that it's
of
ever
all-
existed, and it has nothing to do with democratic control and
Exactly.
the origination of
Asking the
it.
question.
No, that has
It has
nothing to do with it.
nothing
It
to
was
do
in
with
the
it.
original foundation of the state, bro. It was not a democratic state originally. I was far from it. Literally, Portland has taken over the idea of what people think Oregon is, because that's where everybody wants to live, because the majority of the rest of the place has a lot of scary shit happening. And so in my mind, I would like to see the demographics of those numbers just to prove a further point about how fucked up Oregon's history. They literally just took the reality of that off of the books. It's technically not been enforced, but it was literally a place that Black people could be fined for staying. You got fined in order to stay in Oregon and be of color. You had to pay the fucking state. That's how bad it was.
We have Lakeisha up in the audience in Clubhouse. Lakeisha, what do you have to say about all this?
Yes, speak on it, Lakeisha.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Nichole. Thank you, Nichole. It was great seeing you, Jason, live and in person at MJBiz.
Yes, ma'am.
Just for clarification purposes, so the main difference is that pardons are granted by the executive branch of the government and expungements are by the judicial branch of the government. So pardons remove or decrease penalties, and an expungement clears a charge from a criminal record. I'm glad that we've got that out the way. Now that we're done with that, let's talk about this lip service that Oregon is trying to just feed us. It's ridiculous.
Lip service.
It's really ridiculous. They put all these numbers up and they say that they're going to go through, again, can't trust the government. We're going to go through and we're going to look through this 45,000 plus convictions, and we're going to go ahead and just take care of it for you. No worries. We've got your back. Yeah, right. No, I don't trust it at all. I don't trust it. And the fact that they're doing this for things that don't even exist. The Biden pardons is not going to help anyone. These Oregon pardons are not going to help anyone. And so what you're doing is pacifying us, and we deserve better. Our communities deserve better. I mean, they have been criminalized, penalized, and they're still dealing with the repercussions of that to this day. And you're going to go off and let Branson Chats make, billions of dollars at this? No, I call bullshit.
I'm with you.
Call it
Lakeisha.
That's right.
I'm totally with you, Lakeisha. I am totally with you on
If
all
you were totally
of that.
with us, Jason Beck, I don't owe you a dime. Keep
No
it
money.
right.
They're
No
calling it
money.
a pardon. They are
No.
calling it a pardon.
Bro, if
And
you
the
want
governor, I'm listening to
Jay-
the government on this one. The governor's calling it a pardon. I'm calling it a pardon too.
Jason, here's the reality is that you're a trusted resource for the cannabis industry, and your voice is important, and you have to stand behind the reality that is not a pardon. Fuck your bet. You need to stand up for the industry. It's not okay. It's not okay. You're like making, it's not okay. Your bet has nothing to do with this.
Hold on. I've already criticized this as saying
it's not a pardon.
It's not doing shit. It's not doing shit. It's not doing nothing. No one's getting out of jail for this. Okay.
So it's
the
not
best part of it is that they're not receiving $14 million in fines that they would have been fining people, and as well as accruing interest on when people don't pay them.
But that's not a pardon.
That is, I agree with that part. That's not the point. The point is that the governor is calling it a pardon. So therefore, since the governor is calling it a pardon, I'm rolling with that.
I'm going to definitely consider every single thing that Joe Biden says from now on. And I'm going to be like, well, the government said it, Jason.
That's cool.
The government said it.
The government technically says you can smoke crack in Oregon. So you know what I mean? It is what it is.
Fake news. Fake news.
Fake news.
But nonetheless, that was all fun, you guys. Thank you all guys for enjoying that story with me and riling up the ladies. But nonetheless, she's a cannabis business consultant, an industry veteran, a bullshit buster, and a self-proclaimed general overall data bitch, boasting over 13 years in the regulated market, but with deep roots in the legacy industry as well. She is now the CEO at Butters in Santa Ana. And at one point, she did some time for a cannabis crime. It is none other than the one and only Nichole West.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Thank you for my clunkiness, or thank you for being patient with me through my clunkiness of the show. I promise I'll get better. My headline today is coming out of Thailand, and it's actually from a article from a headline from Coconuts, Bangkok, where the Thai court accepts a lawsuit aiming to revoke the cannabis decriminalization. Now, I was telling everybody to be cautious of packing up all your things and thinking that you were going to go move into a tropical paradise and start taking over and appropriating another country, when this article came out to back my play a little bit further. A Thai court yesterday accepted a petition that seeks to revoke the ministerial order that decriminalized cannabis use in Thailand. The Central Administrative Court on Monday afternoon accepted a lawsuit by the Medical Council and MP from opposition of political parties who want to revoke an order by Public Health Ministry that effectively removed cannabis from Thailand's Category 5 narcotics list on June 9th of this year. The petition is led by Smith Sassafrant of the Medical Council and other MPs from oppositional political parties such as Move Forward, Phao Thai, Thai Liberal, Thai People Power, and Pachat parties. The date of the ruling has yet to be determined. Upon the court's acceptance of this petition, a longtime cannabis advocate, Chakwan Kitty Chapoka, announced that she and other dispensary owners would gather around noon in the government house in Bangkok to protest against a decision that might actually recriminalize cannabis. Anyone who shares the same goal is welcome to join, Kitty said. Those that don't want their business shut down, those that don't want the investment to go to waste, those that don't want to hide their cannabis plants again, those that don't want to sell cannabis illegally, those that don't want to go back to getting piss tested. That's in the article. Those that don't want to see cannabis stay legal. Come join us, Kitty wrote in her social media. I'm a big fan that she posted that. Another group of weed advocates led by Sarnat Bir Masafanich, owner of the Shakuma Weed Dispensary, will gather at 2 p.m. tomorrow at the Ministry of Public Health to discuss the upcoming Cannabis Act, which Health Minister Antun Chenavakarol. We aim to create a mutual understanding on benefits that cannabis will bring. Beer statement reads, "We insist that decriminalizing cannabis brings benefits to several sectors, from tourism to economy to agriculture." I can't help but be not surprised by this. I am very much in agreement that cannabis will and absolutely is important for every community around the globe. But I am definitely not surprised that there was a big pushback. Thailand really went hard in the paint on their legalization this year. I mean, they really if I've never seen anybody line step so hard, and being an Asian country, there's a lot of very conservative minds that control a lot of the things around all of their economy. I think they looked to America a lot, and I think that America doing this was one of those things that kind of stoked the fire of saying, hey, we can do this. But I'm really not surprised that this is happening. I hope that it gets overturned, but it can definitely stifle the progress of what's happening right now. And so for all of those people that are packing their things to move to Thailand so they can appropriate another country, be cautious that it might not be that easy. And I'm Nichole West, getting high at 9 with y'all.
Man, I was hoping I could go to Thailand soon and,
I agree with you, Nichole. Well, both Nicholes. I'd love to go to Thailand, but yeah. I also did not think that Thailand was going to accept legalization as easily as it was coming.
It happened so fast, right?
Right.
It was like nothing. It was like off with your head to like smoke joints on the beach, like that, you know? And that's weird and scary and like not very practical when you think about how government actually works.
Well, you have to think about like the police forces too. Like, they're not going to be able to just like pivot that quickly. They've been trained and brainwashed to believe that cannabis is. I don't know if they believe in the devil out there, but whatever the equivalent of the devil is to them.
I'm sure they do.
And
Yeah.
so you better believe that. I mean, I haven't seen it, I haven't heard of it, but I'm willing to bet that some motherfucker still got beat with a stick out on the beach smoking a joint,
Oh, for
Oh, for
sure.
even
sure.
after legalization.
Or
Will
beheaded.
this lawsuit affect hemp also?
Well, hemp didn't really get like legalized. There wasn't like a farm bill in Thailand the
So
way
they
that
consider it all the same thing. They consider hemp and cannabis all the same
So-
thing in Thailand.
So no and yes.
I thought they already had him.
They have, yeah, but they didn't have like an illegal part of hemp. Like it wasn't the same way that like that was not something that even really like changed. It was just became an agricultural commodity for them. And then the whole CBD thing became a chaotic existence. Like they've been growing hemp for a little bit longer than like we even realized. And then the CBD and conversion. And that's when things started to get out of hand for them. They're like, oh shit. And they're like, well, let's just legalize weed because they're taking all of our hemp and turning it into Delta 8 anyways. Like,
Right.
what are we doing?
I wonder how
Right.
much I wonder how much of this is pressure from China, because recently, as we covered here on High at 9 News, China, it was drug testing people that were coming back into the country when they had came back from Thailand to see if they had cannabis in their system. So I wonder how much of this is pressure from the Chinese.
God damn it, China.
China.
Well, China's the largest producer of hemp in the world. I don't. Do they really?
And that's
That's not about
kind
them
of
producing it. It's about their people using it.
well when
So
you
what? I don't think China has a problem throwing people in the gulag. So
They
I
definitely
don't understand why all of a sudden they would be upset about cannabis. Like, oh, let's throw a few guys in jail. That's not going to break their hearts. That's how China works.
I think they do have a problem with people throwing people in the gulag. They just kill them.
they just do it. Yeah.
They
Well,
disappear.
Thank you guys for entertaining me on that. And I do hope that Thailand does continue to push for access. If you are out in Thailand, definitely, and a part of this, connect with these people that are being a part of the movement. It's important that we stick together. It's important that we have a united voice, because that's been one of the biggest struggles, I think, of the cannabis industry since day one, is that we've got like 37 people all trying to say 37 different things to one politician. And it becomes very fucking difficult for them to register what the right answer is. So, you know, get together and be a team on this, guys. We're rooting for you, Thailand. But we have to hop to our next correspondent. Our next correspondent is Mr. Ed Schwartz. He's our resident tech guy and the voice of the High at 9. Ed's a regulated cannabis industry veteran with over 13 years experience across all verticals. Currently works for Blaze as the product manager overseeing their retail software products, and definitely somebody that you would want to make sure that you have on your phone a friend if you ever got to be on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. Ed, what do you have for us today?
Well, this morning, I just want to take a quick moment to welcome everybody back from MJ BizCon. For those of us who are out there, hopefully your recovery is going as swiftly as mine. Day 3 of recovery, and I'm feeling like I'm almost human again. So, for those of you who haven't been to BizCon, I highly recommend it. It's a great time, and tons of great connections made and lessons learned. But today I'm here to talk about somebody in cannabis getting 17 and a half years in prison, but without touching cannabis at all. This is the fun part. The headline today comes from CBS News and also covered by ABC News National. Former UCLA decathlete gets over 17 years in prison for cannabis pen fraud. A former track and field star who supposedly pivoted to a career in business was sentenced to 17 and a half years in federal prison on Monday for allegedly defrauding cannabis industry investors out of more than $45 million, the Department of Justice announced. And I'm going to butcher his last name horribly, but I don't think he's going to care that much, being that he's going to prison soon. David Bunavax, 53 years old, is accused of deceiving investors, including some who reportedly faced severe financial instability, into paying for his own vacations, horses, designer garments, and even his family's home in Calabasas, which authorities described as luxurious in a news release. Boonavax is said to have collected money from the alleged fraud victims under the guise of entrepreneurship, telling them that their investments would be used to fund companies marketing cannabis vape pens, according to the Justice Department. His alleged scheme actually dates all the way back to starting in at least 2010, according to authorities, when he began to establish business entities with names like CB Holding Group Corp. And Caesar Brutus LLC. Boonavax allegedly claimed that the companies were involved in the cannabis industry, and specifically the sale of vape pens containing products like CBS oil and THC. And I'm going to go ahead and say that's a typo, since it is on CBS News. They definitely have an autocorrect on from CBD to CBS. And I get it. They're right next to each other on the keyboard, but, proofread your shit. He also purportedly shared false information with at least one investor about his relationship with a Chinese manufacturer of disposable vape pens that were non-toxic and high quality. Meanwhile, Boonavax is also accused of registering shell companies, some of which borrowed names from legitimate companies, in order to create the false appearance that his companies were engaged in legitimate business activities, according to the Justice Department. He apparently took care to distance himself from some of the shell entities, listing other people, including his own stepdaughter, ladies and gentlemen, as their corporate officers instead of himself. Special kind of scumbag. The federal court filing suggests that Boonavax raised upwards of $45.2 million in fraudulent investments, which came from more than 100 victims, which Nichole West and I both come from some time in private equity, and we can tell you that there is a lot of dumb money out there that's just willing to throw cash at people like this. The U.S. District Judge Dale S. Fisher, who sentenced Boonavax to 210 months in federal prison, claimed he is responsible for losses mounting to more than $35 million. I do want to also call out that he's spending 210 months in prison, which is exactly half of 420. Just throwing that out there for everybody. The sense of violation, the assault on personal dignity, and the lasting trauma that Boonavax has caused are very much reminiscent of the harm typically associated with violent crimes, prosecutors said in a sentencing memo. And with well over 100 victims, Boonavax caused harm at a scale rarely seen. He was a successful decathlete at UCLA and went on to compete in track and field events with the Filipino national team. He and his wife, Jessica Rodriguez, a Filipino actor and model, share 3 children. He already also had one felony conviction previously for unlawful sale of securities in 2017. And also, after his initial arrest in April, he pleaded guilty in July to 1 count of securities fraud and 1 count of wire fraud. He currently remains in federal custody. And ladies and gentlemen, we could probably say that this dude also has something to do with Vapegate. That's complete and total speculation on my part. But let the decries of hate roll on in. My name is Ed Schwartz. I'm here reporting on High at 9. I want to hear what the rest of my team has to say about this.
What a scumbag.
Yeah, like, how are you going to sell people shitty vape pens? We had enough problems with that.
And $45 million worth of investment. Nobody's reading and doing any type of research. None of you, dumb money. Wow.
Dumb money, bad reputation for this business. That's a scar on all of us. It's insulting.
Yeah. Do we know what the name of the brand of the vape company was?
We know some of the names of
Sorry, bad joke.
Oof. We know some names of the shell companies he created. One of them was called CB Holding Group Corp, and the other is called Caesar Brutus, all one word, LLC. So if anybody listening has done business with a company named CB Holding Group Corp and or Caesar Brutus LLC, you got scammed.
Caesar Brutus. Wow. And, honestly, this reality, I think, is something that's going to continue to happen. The amount of times that I've seen where you get down to the end of it and you're like, how did you spend that much money on what? And like, I think I remember seeing part of the article. Did you say like he like bought his daughter like a fancy birthday party or something? That was one of the things that was like listed on the SEC like investigation, was this like over the top birthday party, which I thought was kind of interesting. But yeah, I'm curious to see how this actually shakes out for a lot of people, because I think this might be a precedent-setting situation to see how people are going to treat, the fraud that's happening in the cannabis industry. And I'm curious to know, as far as like, is this status quo for the time and what he did in as a bigger picture for the SEC, right? Like, how much time would somebody do if they did this for like poultry or something, right? Like, is it the same? Is the SEC treating it the same, or are they treating it more harshly because it's a securities in cannabis specifically that they were trying to do? Or, I'm just a thought.
Yeah, I mean, it's the SEC going after him and FBI and all that sorts of fun stuff. So
they probably are being bigger dicks because it's cannabis, right?
The SEC is like a very, very gnarly agency to have to deal with, especially someone from the cannabis space. Unless you're from the financial world, you're going to have a very hard time dealing with them.
Oh, absolutely. And that's what I'm saying. Like, I've seen some situations be handled that seem almost as crazy as this by the SEC, but it wasn't weed. And so I'm just curious as far as like the actual sentencing time, if it's like adequate or not. But we are at time on that story. So super interesting. Thank you so much for that story, Ed. We will go ahead and hop to a commercial so we can pay some bills.
When you want to grow some of the best weed in the world, then you must start with the best genetics in the world. Go to www.dnagenetics.shop to order regular, feminized, or autoflower beans. All of your favorite DNA genetics cultivars such as Kosher Kush, Skywalker Kush, and oh yeah, Chocolate Truffle Shuffle. Boasting more cannabis awards for their award-winning genetics than any other company in the world. Remember to go to www.dnagenetics.shop to see why our terps don't lie.
Well, I definitely feel like I can feel the energy of that commercial from Jason Beck. I feel like I can like see him like in the video.
Serious commercial.
It's so serious. I love it.
It was pretty epic. Like, I was waiting for the Monday. Plant your seeds in the ground from DNA Genetics.
Well, everyone, let me pop to the disclaimer real quick. The thoughts and opinions and general shade thrown on the High at 9 News are those individual speakers, not any other speaker or its followers. Statements made do not constitute legal or accounting advice. Their speakers make no representation regarding the legal status of any substance in any country, area, territory, its authorities. Views expressed from this room do not establish fiduciary relationships. Our sponsors do not imply, constitute endorsement, the expression of us, any opinion whatsoever, or any speaker on stage. If you're an easily offended person, the show's probably not for you. And it also might be time to try to grow some plants because they'll make you happier.
Oh yeah, and use promo code Beck when you're buying the seeds to plant those plants.
Harvest on Friday.
Flying into LAX and you want to taste some of the best weed in the world? Then stop by LAXCC, the closest dispensary to LAX, located at 8332 Lincoln Boulevard and open from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. 7 days a week. Always make LAXCC your first stop when you touch down in LA and score like a winner. And don't forget to tell them I sent you and mention you'd like to get high at 9 for 10% off your full order.
Well, up next, we have Miss Gretchen Gailey. Gretchen's a feisty, redheaded conservative, founder of Panoptic Strategies, a Washington insider with Mayflower roots that never backs down from a verbal challenge by pot-loving libs across the aisle, or Jason Beck, who seems to sit on the same side of the aisle. We're not really sure which side it is, but it looks fun over there. What do you have for us today, Gretchen?
Good afternoon. My headline is coming also from CBS News. Once Ed said that, I just started doing some digging around, and there was a story that perked my interest yesterday when I heard about it, and I'm glad when I saw it, it popped back into my head. Supreme Court takes Jack Daniels' case against dog toy maker. The Supreme Court said Monday it will hear a dispute over a dog toy that got whiskey maker Jack Daniels barking mad. The company that makes Jack Daniels had filed a lawsuit over a squeaking dog toy that parodies the whiskey's signature bottle and had asked the justices to hear its case against the manufacturer of the plastic Bad Spaniels toy. A number of major companies, from the makers of Campbell's Soup to outdoor brand Patagonia, and jeans maker Levi Strauss have urged the justices to take what they say is an important case for trademark law. The case won't be argued until early 2023, with a decision expected before the court leaves for its summer recess. The toy that got Jack Daniel's so doggone mad mimics the square shape of its whiskey bottle, as well as its black and white label and amber-colored liquor, while adding what it calls poop humor. While the original bottle has the words Old Number 7 brand and Tennessee Sour Mash whiskey, the parody proclaims the Old Number 2 on your Tennessee carpet. Instead of the original note that is 40% alcohol by volume, the parody says it's 43% poo by volume and 100% smelly. The toy retails for about $13 to $20, and the packaging notes in small font, this product is not affiliated with Jack Daniel's Distillery. The toy maker says Jack Daniel's can't take a joke. It is ironic that America's leading distiller of whiskey both lacks a sense of humor and does not recognize when it and everyone else has had enough. Lawyers for the Arizona-based VIP Products wrote to the High Court. They told the justices that Jack Daniel's has waged war against the company for having the temerity to produce a pun-filled parody of its bottle. But Jack Daniel's lead attorney, Lisa Blatt, made no bones about the company's position in her filing. To be sure, everyone likes a good joke, but VIP's profit-motivated joke confuses consumers by taking advantage of Jack Daniel's hard-earned goodwill. Is what she said for the Louisville, Kentucky-based Brown-Forman Corp., Jack Daniel's parent company. Blatt wrote that a lower court decision provides near-blanket protection to humorous trademark infringement, and she said it has broad and dangerous consequences, pointing to children who are hospitalized after eating marijuana-infused products that mimic candy packaging. If VIP Products is allowed to confuse consumers with dog toys, other funny infringers can do the same with juice boxes or marijuana-infused candy. The toy is part of a line of VIP products called Silly Squeakers that mimic liquor, beer, wine, and soda bottles. They include Mountain Drool, which parodies Mountain Dew, and Heine Sniffin', which parodies Heineken. A court in 2008 barred the company from selling its Budweiser parody, Butt Wiper. After the company began selling its Bad Spaniels toy in 2014, Jack Daniel's told the company to stop, but VIP went to court to be allowed to continue to sell its product. Jack Daniel's won the first round in court, but lost an appeal. The case reached the Supreme Court at an earlier stage, but the justices didn't bite. Bad Spaniels isn't the only parody puppy toy to draw the ire of the brand it's imitated. Luxury bag maker Louis Vuitton sued the makers of Chewy Vuitton under their plush purse dog toys. In 2007, a federal appeals court also sided with the Chew Toys manufacturers, Nevada-based Hot Diggity Dog. Louis Vuitton did not appeal to the Supreme Court. I think this is going to be an interesting case, honestly, because we see so much trademark infringement in this industry with the bad branding, and people can't come up with their own damn ideas. I'm very interested to see how this turns out. I'm going to be a little surprised, frankly, if Jack Daniel's wins. I mean, it's a dog toy. I could see this if it were another drink, another beverage they were going after. I don't know. I think there's too much apples and oranges between the two, but I'm not an attorney, so I would love to hear what Robbie thinks of this whole case.
Yeah, look, I think when we talk about brands, it is about goodwill, right? And those are those intangible intellectual property assets that a company or an individual can have. So, one would argue that, this dog toy maker is capitalizing off of the goodwill of the brand to get access to Jack Daniel's customer base. And that's not fair, right? That's something that Jack Daniel's spent a lot of time and money, building up. And I think on the cannabis side of things, we're also seeing this where there's a lot of knockoffs and imitations that most of us probably laugh at when we see in the store. But, nonetheless, I think we might see more of these types of lawsuits coming up.
I remember, excuse me, oh gosh, Tincture Bell was the name of the company. And they had like a Snockers. It was like a Snickers knockoff. And they had like a weed cups, and it was Reese's peanut butter cups thing knockoff. And I watched them get like shut the fuck down by some trademark issues on that. But then I've also seen things that I'm, like, that's interesting. I currently possess 4 cease and desist letters from the major corporations that you don't want to fuck with. The NFL, Disney, 3M, and the Girl Scouts of America. They're not so bad to fuck with, but we fucked with them. Cease and desist letters for my Weed Maps menus, having what did we have? I think we had a Peyton Manning product that we had to shut down. We had Disneyland OG and Yoda OG, which Disneyland owns the rights to all the fun fucking Star Wars things that you guys think that you're doing. And then 3M for Gorilla Glue. I got a cease and desist from them. And Girl Scouts of America for, lo and behold, Girl Scout cookies. And that's why everyone has to call it GSC now. So, I mean, I think we're going to see some things really have to be like pushed on some of these brands for us to see, unfortunately, a turn of events, because I think right now people are just like death by 1,000 paper cutsing on people. But I think that's the tide is changing. The turntables are turning.
I remember a few years ago, Pittsburgh's Normal chapter decided to make their logo like the Steelers emblem, and the NFL immediately shut that down. And I'm being a Pittsburgher, I was like, "Yay, I love that!" And then they're like, "No."
Oh yeah, don't call anything a Super Bowl. They own the rights to that. Like nothing. Don't say you have a Super Bowl. You're having.
You got to say big game.
Robbie, I get your point about the Jack Daniels has a certain reputation and earned goodwill, yada, yada, yada. But obviously Louis Vuitton lost their case before when it came to dog toys. Does it matter at all that this is a dog toy versus a beverage?
No, I think it certainly does matter, and that's a factor. And I don't know the nuances of the Louis Vuitton case to compare the two. But yeah, I mean, that certainly does matter if it's not like an exact knockoff. But nonetheless, Jack Daniels should and could be concerned that devalues their brand.
Robbie, does it matter if let's just say that Jack Daniels was also making dog toys that they would give away at dog parks or at different trade show events or whatnot that they would participate in? Then would that increase their legal claim?
Yeah, I think potentially that would be a similar product then. Sorry, it reminds me of law school where people just come up with the most insane hype. They're like, what if a pig and there was a cease and desist letter that was written by Obama, and then
no. I'm just saying, lots of companies make other products. Lots of companies make other products that they use for marketing that has nothing to do with what their core.
So when you register, right? So there's different classes of intellectual property. So when you register certain marks, for example, is one example I'm providing, like there'll be different classes of like apparel or retail or this or that, right? That you'll register it in. So certainly if like someone's, in that class, then yeah, that's more of a direct violation. However, if there are other, different classes, that could still be a violation too. But you are correct. If it were in the same class, that there would arguably be more of a claim.
Because I see folks like Skittles and them having a better argument when it's an edible company that they're going up against. I don't see it as much with a dog toy. That's just me.
This has been going on since 2020. I just found an article about this specific dog toy from April 8th of 2020. This has been pushed in court twice now. It looks like they probably lost the first round, but I also just looked, and Jack Daniels has filed some egregious amount of patents and trademarks over the past 3 years, majority of it being based around the shape and like continuity of their bottle. And I mean, down to they have fucking virtual whiskey. NFT and metaverse.
Yeah, I mean Coca-Cola.
Yeah, Jack Daniels won the first round but lost the appeal.
Yeah. This is interesting that this is going to keep happening. But I'm curious to see how it shakes out. So definitely let's follow it along.
I love that the Supreme Court is caring about major corporations here. They're not.
But just right now, I mean,
but for the little guy.
But Gretchen, I think if you think about it right now, like I want everyone to pause for a second. I'm going to say something. Jack Daniels, what are you picturing in your mind right now? We all picture the same thing. That's invaluable.
I was picturing a dog.
Like that's the IP. That's the goodwill.
I'm sorry. He just said, let's pause. And I thought about pause.
See I pictured a dog toy after this.
That's what I'm saying right there.
It might have been in the shape of a bottle, but nonetheless, my dog may like to drink. Oh, yes. That was fun, you guys. Thank you, Gretchen, for that story. Coming up next, she's a cannabis patient, a plant medicine advocate, also the founder of Purple Plant Magic and national brand ambassador for Black Buddha Cannabis. She's also the encyclopedia on Power 88 in Las Vegas every Wednesday morning. It is none other than the Nichole Buffong.
Oh, thank you so much, Jason, for that lovely introduction. Going along with the theme of arrest, And police not understanding the law is my story coming out of Guyana. And it is Rastafarians call for additional measures for marijuana use. And members of the Rastafarian community yesterday lit and smoked joints across the street from the office of the president as part of a protest against the recently passed bill that removes custodial sentences for possession of less than 30 grams of cannabis. The group of over a dozen persons demanded that respect be given to the rights of their community by exempting Rastafarians from any type of prosecution under the law when smoking cannabis, which they maintain is used as sacrament as a part of their religion and for self-medication. While noting that the recent bill passed on Monday fails to recognize their rights in keeping with the recommendations of a CARICOM commission on marijuana, they also called for the expunging of the criminal records of those who were previously charged for cannabis. President of the Guyana Rastafari Council, Ras Simeon, said that they were protesting for the religious and cultural rights being denied by the government, which he accused of as discrimination. He said members of the Rastafarian community should be able to practice their culture freely without any custodial sentence. Under the recently passed bill, custodial sentences have been removed for persons found with up to 30 grams of cannabis, with mandatory counseling and community service being the penalty for those who held with between 15 and 30 grams. Attorney General Nichole, who spoke at length on the bill before its passage on Monday, told the House there were petitions from different groups on how to best address any decriminalization. According to Nandal, the Attorney General, the position came in the most balanced way, the competing views and opinions within the four corners of society. I'd like to know what those four corners of society are. But Ras Kafra, General Secretary of the Guyana Rastafari Council yesterday, said that irrespective of all amendments that the government has made to the bill, it has not addressed the core issue of respecting the religious rights of the Rastafarian community as provided for under Article 145 of their constitution. For him, the community's rights must be respected by exempting Rastafarians from any type of prosecution under the law for cannabis, as he too maintained that its use has always been sacramental for them. He further stated that the bill also doesn't address the recognition of the health benefits of cannabis, which he noted is front and center across the Caribbean. Instead, he said the government is maintaining unjust and discriminatory laws that target Rastafarians and other African people. He said with the new law, persons would still be held in custody prior to going to court, where the magistrate would refer them for counseling or community service, which he maintained should not include Rastafarians. Ras Kafra noted that the Rastafarian community has already started to have discussions with two lawyers on the way forward. Their lawyers have agreed and have already started to draft something. While some of the protesters lit up and smoked joints, an officer and other police ranks at the scene cautioned them not to smoke any amount of cannabis in the sight of the public. There was also a story that came out of Jamaica last month during their Nyabinghi celebration. And there was an elder, Rastafarian elder, arrested on National Heroes Day. And he went to court recently in Jamaica over that accusation. So they're still arresting Rastas even in Jamaica. They passed their Dangerous Drug Act in 2015, which included Rastafarians to be allowed to use and grow cannabis for sacramental purposes. They just have not completed the infrastructure. So even though they've said that they could, and the law says that they could, and these Rastafarians have applied for licenses, they have not granted them the licenses. So the Rastas are growing their medicine in their sacrament because what they know how to do, and they're still getting arrested and still getting harassed. And it's just a shame that my father was a Rastafarian. I know how important the plant is to that community and that group of people, and how vital they are in the legal side of the industry now. There would not be land breath in Jamaica if it were not for those Rastafarians refusing to follow Babylon law and continue to grow the plant the last 100 years. And they're still getting harassed. They're not giving an easy access into the industry and in those places and countries. Just burns my It makes my blood boil. But it's why I fight and why I do what I do, to bring recognition around their stories and their plight, to continue to keep the genetics alive. So my name is Nichole Buffon, reporting for High at 9 News. I'd love to hear what my fellow correspondents think about this story.
I think it's absolutely crazy to really even consider that Rastas in Jamaica are still like it's just proof how much of a bubble I think so many people live in, because that reality is not even something that like I grasped. I feel like mildly ashamed, because I think Jamaica is such a fucking cool place, and I'm like, go travel there. It's this beautiful thing. But like, I had no idea that that was still actually, people were still getting arrested in Jamaica. Like, I just assumed that nobody ever got arrested in Jamaica for weed.
We all
like,
do. We all assume
I just assumed it. I was just
Yeah,
like, I don't know.
we all do.
That's what it comes down to. You got to pay the cops off. It's very similar to Mexico.
No, it's the thing is, and what really just gets under my skin is the fact that that they fought to get the law changed. That's what they did. They advocated for so long, so many years, got the law changed, and they are still being prosecuted and persecuted for having possession of the plant after the government has recognized it as a sacrament for them.
Yeah, I've heard some very, very atrocious stories of some of the types of government persecutions that they used to do in Jamaica, like many moons ago, from some of the elder Rastas, and my mind was blown at some of the things that government would do to these people. So God bless them, and I wish them the best.
So I also have to ask, this is something else that I'm not 100% certain of. Is this more Rasta or more Jamaicans? Like, is this Black people running the government that are doing this, or is I know the British came in and like took over a gang of the governmental thing.
These are colonized Black people with that type of thinking, right? The people who are in the government are completely colonized, still giving homage to the king and to the queen of England or whatever country colonized them. Still,
don't forget about the IMF.
You have to cover your shoulders when you walk into a government office inside on a Caribbean island. Your shoulders have to be covered.
Oh wow, yeah. All right. Well, I guess long live the queen. That's fucked up.
Well, actually, it's the king now.
All right.
Yes.
Fair enough. Fair enough. All right. Well, thank you so much for that story, Nichole. Honestly, again, like I said, I feel saddened of my ignorance, but I hope that we can continue to educate more people on this. It's the purpose of our show. So thank you for bringing that, and thank you for being so gracious to help me better understand and help the rest of us better understand what's happening in Jamaica right now. And up next, we have Robbie Pinamanini over here to land our plane today. Usually Ed's our plane lander. So Robbie, he is a cannabis investor, a business developer, a licensing attorney, and he spends most of his days calling the shots on what's next as the head of California operations for the delivery machine that is Ease. And his nights recovering from his mentally exhausting days of regulatory gymnastics as a lawyer, as well as being asked a ton of questions that are absolutely ridiculous on our show. Thank you, Robbie, for having patience and love for us. What do you have for us today?
Thank you, Nichole, for painting me as having an active lifestyle. I've been feeling so sedentary lately, but it sounds like I'm moving around a lot by that bio. So today's article is New York issues first adult use marijuana retail permits, okays delivery to expedite sales. New York regulators on Monday issued the first 36 marijuana retail licenses for an adult use market that officials insist will open by year's end. That timeline took a positive turn when the state's official Office of Cannabis Management, OCM, announced it would allow qualifying businesses to launch delivery services before opening their retail stores, a significant change from other recreational markets. This will help jumpstart sales and enable these small business owners to generate capital and scale their operations, the regulatory agency tweeted on Monday. New York adult use retailers are projected to generate $1 to $1.2 billion in sales next year, growing to $2.2 to $2.7 billion by 2026, according to the 2022 MJ Biz Fact Book. Regulators said 28 of the retail license winners went to individuals with marijuana convictions or family members who'd been arrested for cannabis. The other 8 licenses went to nonprofits. The first group of conditional adult use retail dispensary CAURD license winners include Capital District Cannabis and Wellness, Essential Flowers, Christian Kemet, Gotham CUARD, NYCCA Buds. The agency is reviewing 903 CAURD applicants, the state's version of social equity, to issue the first 150 adult use licenses, as well as helping them lease and fund operations through a proposed $200 million social equity cannabis fund. New York cannabis attorney David Fetter applauded the developments, calling the issuance of licenses a bold move for the OCM, considering the state is facing a federal lawsuit challenging a requirement that marijuana operators must have a quote-unquote significant presence in the state. The lawsuit has disrupted the rollout of the adult use market in parts of the state. Earlier this month, a federal judge ruled that New York regulators were prohibited from issuing several adult use marijuana licenses in 5 areas. The New York Times reported that 63 of the 150 planned licenses earmarked for Brooklyn, Central New York, the Finger Lakes, the Mid-Hudson area, and Western New York were impacted by the decision. This is a momentous day, said Fetter, who represents the CUARD license winner in Queens, one of the 11 New York jurisdictions that are not yet affected by the ruling. Other regions unaffected by the ruling include Manhattan and the Bronx. The lawsuit filed by the Michigan-based Verasite NY1 is seeking injunction against the state, the OCM, and the agency's executive officer, Christopher Alexander. Verasite, which applied for licenses in the 5 regions, is not significantly connected to New York. The lawsuit has fueled more uncertainty in the market's initial rollout. Several regulatory policies and operational procedures have yet to be finalized. But some pending requirements released Sunday for existing medical marijuana companies transitioning into the recreational market are generating a buzz amongst the state's multi-state operators. The MSOs account for nearly all of the existing MMJ companies, and the pending regulations targeting them include a one-time licensing fee of $5 million, an additional $3 million fee per store for medical marijuana providers to enter the adult use market, and a 3-year moratorium to open any retail store for recreational sales. While the state's medical market is considered vertical, with each license holder able to grow, process, manufacture, and sell cannabis, regulators took a much different tack in the adult use sector, establishing high and expensive barriers to entry for existing MMJ providers. So this is just another data point in, I think, what the shit show of New York cannabis has been. Be interested in any comments.
I actually wanted to, I was reading, I was going to do an article about New York originally, and I saw yours come in, and I just wanted you to have this one, but there was one part of the other one in regards to the MSOs that I thought was super interesting, or the article, and it was talking about whether or not they'll be open prior to the end of the year, because I know there's another bet on the table on that. So currently, the people that are granted the CURAD licenses will not be allowed to begin operations until the completion of a secondary supplemental application to the satisfaction of the office, including completing a notification of the appropriate municipality and the conditional adult use retail dispensary and where it'll be located. In this sense, there's a severe doubt that any of the 36 stores will be open before the year's end. And so I just wanted to say that. But also, I think it's really interesting. I talked to 2 different people out of attempting to apply for a New York license, because once we got down to the part where it was like, hey, what's your New York relationship? It was such a stretch for them to fucking explain it. I said, ethically, I'm not willing to help you anymore, because to me, this is, you're trying to finagle the system. Like, there are people in New York that have gone through shit that deserve this, and like in a big way. Like, I'm not trying to, they're asking a specific question. There was a question in the application that says, does your, did your business, for like the nonprofit part, did your business have relationships to helping justice involved people in New York? And people that were like, yeah, I had an employee one time that was from New York and this thing. And like the way that people were trying to like work around it, I twice was like, no, I'm not going to participate in this. It's interesting because you're looking at, there was a short, the amount of licenses applied. I think there were 16 for nonprofit applied, and there was 25 available, and they only issued 8. I'd be willing to bet that the other 8 didn't have adequate substantiating information. A lot of them thought like, oh, we're just going to get one, right? Because we applied and there's more licenses than are available. I know several people that applied that just assumed they were going to get one because there was one available. And like, I think New York is going to be a little bit more attention to detail than that, personally.
I'm still holding out hope. One dispensary will open.
I don't think any will open, and there's just also a lack of enforcement.
I need one.
I mean,
you're not going
to be tough. It's so easy to buy.
At the same time, why is anyone going to go shopping any of them when all they have to do is stand outside and go and buy some weed off the picnic table for less price that's going to be better quality?
The only argument to the full transition on that is it might be very easy for the 10 already existing businesses that are in New York that are pretty much all MSOs. It's Columbia Care, Acreage, Curaleaf, Green Thumb Industries, MedMen, PharmaCann, and Vireo Health. It's literally 8 of the 10 of the currently existing businesses are MSOs. And so their conversion into adult use, that I think might be capable of happening because they've already gone through all the bullshit, because they are going to be allowed to have adult use. I think that might be
Their
a
boof
caveat.
OG.
Yeah, the boof OG.
Yeah.
So you're telling me they didn't put a provision in there, since those are all MSOs, that the equity licenses have to open up prior to them being able to start selling adult use? I mean, that doesn't sound like a New York policy to me with all the other policies they put in.
No, I don't.
No,
think
because
so.
the MSOs have already been there.
But at the same, yeah, they've already been there.
They're
And at the
medical.
same, yeah, they've been there
That's
for.
not the
No, but
point,
at the
though.
same time, the bigger argument is, what about all the people that have all this weed that they need to sell? So doing what you're saying is actually going to affect the farmers' ability to get their weed sold too.
No one's
So
gonna buy
like
that
it has a
weed
trickle
even
down
in the
of-
first place anyway.
Yes, they will. Everyone, it's selling. People buy it. Like people buy garbage weed if
People's
there's
not gonna
nothing
buy
else.
that weed.
Bro, people buy
That's
garbage
right.
weed when there's nothing else. They do. I promise.
People are going
Yeah,
to be
my old
excited
pal.
by a new market opening, and they're going to
That's
go
right.
and buy whatever
that
there
buy
it
it.
is.
Bro,
Because
people buy
when I go
garbage
to
weed
New
and there
York,
is
I'm going to
something
buy
else.
it. When I go to New York, I'm going to buy it just to see, try it, you know?
Absolutely. You could buy
Yeah,
some
they did.
Glass House Farms from that one spot, you know? Fucking Kyle will give you a tour of the fucking trap at the retail store in New York.
And
Oh,
to
yeah.
Steve Blassingham, Jason does not have any chance in hell in winning this bet
Yeah,
or the
right.
bullshit pardon bet.
I am winning this bet
Not
without
happening,
a
Steve.
doubt. Steve knows what time it is. He knows exactly what it is. Exactly what it is.
Fake news
Thank you,
time in Jason Beckland.
Yeah, right. This reality time in reality world, girl. But nonetheless, thank you, Robbie, for that amazing story today. Thank you for everyone for getting high at 9 with us today, Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific and high noon on the East Coast. Big shout out to our audience supporters, for all of you tuning in daily and supporting, subscribing, and all of that fanciness, listening to the insanity that is the developing cannabis industry and its ongoing drama with a lot of the same players and a whole bunch of new ones at the same time too. Thank you to the haters for still talking about us, and huge thank you to True Classic, LAXCC, and DNA Genetics for helping us keep the lights on. Thank you to our correspondents for being absolutely amazing, and thank you, cannabis, for giving us a reason to do this and get high at 9 with us. Thank you to 3 is 4 and Zaza Simone holding us down in Clubhouse, and everyone go out and have an amazing day. And thank you for tuning in and getting high at 9 with us. Run that shit.
See y'all.
You are tuned in to the High at 9 News Hour, where you will hear from cannabis industry experts and professionals from around the country talk about important topics while shining light on global issues and discussing cannabis as it relates to politics, regulation and reform, data and technology, science, research and medicine, family and parenting, art, celebs and entertainment, fitness, sports, mental health and wellness, and plant-based medicines and enthogenics. Together, we are building a stronger community, fighting the stigma and creating change. With your hosts, Jason Beck, Rico Lamitte, and Nichole West, joined by special industry expert correspondents from around the country and daily antics brought to you by Cannabis. Coming to you live Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time. Thank you for getting high at 9 with us.